Hi to everyone who's joining us live. We're going to give everyone a couple minutes to join in, but we will be starting promptly at 12:02. In the meantime, please make sure to share this live stream to your feed. And just to go over some quick housekeeping, please plug any questions you might have into the Facebook comments, and we will get to them during the Q&A session at the end of our event. And we are going to wait just another minute and start promptly at 12:02. Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our Domestic Violence Awareness Month Critical Conversations, Healthy Relationships 101. My name is Danny Watson-Getz, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the new Executive Director of WomenNC. So I'd like to quickly start out by telling you about WomenNC. For those of you who may not know, WomenNC's mission is to empower the next generation to advance gender equality in North Carolina, and our vision is to create a world free of gender discrimination. We are known for our paramount initiative, the Leadership Training Program, which pairs up university students with social scientists from RTI's Global Gender Center to research prevalent issues pertaining to women in North Carolina. From there, they go on to advocate for low-budget policy solutions to improve the status quo of women in North Carolina. We also work with students from UNC's public policy program on their capstone project to achieve similar goals. Joining us today are 5 advocates for change in the domestic violence sphere. First, I'd love for our panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll dive into today's topic. Samia, can you start us off with a 30-second overview of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Danny. My name is Samia Noor. I'm a graduate of Duke University, and I am also a previous WomenNC Scholar in the year 2019 to 2020. I'm currently a government and policy consultant based in New York City.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Shreya, can you take us next?
Yeah, of course. My name is Shreya Kancharla. I am currently a 4th-year student at North Carolina State University, majoring in political science and minoring in women's gender studies. And after undergrad, I hope to go to law school and hopefully work in immigration law.
Awesome. Thank you. Angela, passing it to you.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Angela Lee. My pronouns are she, her, and they. I am the Love is Respect Director, which is a project of the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And basically what I do is lead the strategy, implementation, and operations for Love is Respect, because our goal is to ensure that Love is Respect is the national resource to disrupt and prevent unhealthy relationships. So I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. Allison, we'll take it to you.
Hey, thanks, Danny. My name is Allison Barbee. I'm the lead sexual assault case manager at Interactive Wake County. I've been in this role for about 3 years, my 4th year at Interact. I've got a long background in education and social work, and just really glad to be here with all of you. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Shahon, we'll pass it to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Shahon. I am the founder of Beautiful Broken Vessels, a new nonprofit in the Raleigh-Durham area, focusing on helping adolescents and young girls building healthy relationships through self-empowerment and self-improvement courses to prevent the cycle of toxic and abusive relationships. I am a social worker by trade, and I'm excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. So thank you guys for those introductions. I'd like to kick off the conversation with one of WomenNC's previous scholars, Samia, discussing her research, how to reduce violence against women who experience intimate partner violence in Durham, North Carolina. So Samia, I will pass it to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Danny. My name is Samia, and I'm excited to talk about my experiences with WomenNC and my research relating to gun violence and intimate partner violence against women in North Carolina. So I was a WomenNC scholar back in the year 2019 to 2020, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how I came to this topic. So prior to becoming a scholar in fall 2019, I interned for the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office in the summer of 2019, and I worked with their gun violence prevention unit and learned a very horrifying statistic. Women are 500% more likely to be killed or attacked by their abuser if their abuser has access to a gun. This is something that I think really shocked me and something that was just so surprising and horrifying to learn. I'm from California, and at that time I was learning a lot about gun violence prevention policies, different education programs, about domestic violence awareness, and things like that the city attorney's office was trying to roll out in California. When I got back to North Carolina later that fall for my junior year at Duke and became a WomenNC scholar, I was really trying to think about what topic I wanted to center on, and I realized I didn't really know too much about gun violence, domestic violence in that area, specifically in North Carolina, as I had only been living in North Carolina for a few years at that point. So I wanted to build my topic around understanding, specifically in the area that I was living in my community, Durham County, what was their issues with domestic violence, gun violence, and partner violence around women. So that's really what I wanted to delve my topic into. And I started off by meeting with different folks at the Durham County Sheriff Office, meeting with different folks who led different nonprofits in the area that provided services to women that experienced domestic violence and intimate partner gun violence. Throughout my research, I learned something very surprising at the Durham County Sheriff Department. They didn't really have a set protocols into place about how to remove firearms that were reported by victims. So a lot of these instances, let's just put a hypothetical out there. Let's say someone files a domestic violence protection order, a DVPO, and then the sheriff shows up on the scene. Let's say the abuser has a gun, but it's not registered. So it's not officially registered. They can't really do anything to take it away unless they get a search warrant. And at that time in 2019, the Durham County Sheriff Department did not have any protocols set into place to taking away firearms that were not registered. So even if the woman is there saying, I'm scared, my partner is going to hurt me, they have a gun, it's in the house, the police can't really do anything about that. They didn't have any protocols set into place at that time. And I think what was just shocking to learn at the time also is that in Durham, the police department were getting calls about gun violence against women almost on a daily basis, 1 to 2 calls a day. And Durham is a mid-sized, it's not a tiny town, but it's not a big city like Los Angeles or New York City either. So getting multiple calls a day about gun violence against women was just astonishing. And the sheriff's department did say that one of the primary reasons was the access to the guns being unregulated on the black market. As I was thinking about, what could kind of be done to provide a solution for moving forward and kind of improving the way that the different services in Durham provide help to women who are seeking shelter or services to kind of move past this and hopefully eliminate gun violence and domestic violence against women in general. I thought about two things. One was for the sheriff's department to implement some sort of additional training, to have a department dedicated to gun violence protection, which a lot of leading states do. When I was working in the city attorney's office, they mentioned that the Los Angeles Police Department had like a dedicated unit to gun violence and that kind of thing. And I know Durham is, of course, a lot smaller, but a lot of other cities in California that were a lot smaller were doing that as well. And it was working for them to have people who are on the team dedicated to dealing with these types of matters. And the second part, which I think what we're really here to talk about today, is starting people at a younger level to learn about healthy relationships. A lot of kids don't know what healthy relationships look like. And as you kind of cycle through the phases of going through relationships as an adult, it's harder to see what an abusive relationships look like if you've never been exposed to a healthy status quo in your life. So one of my recommendations was centered around providing education to students in Durham about what healthy relationships look like, so they can go into life with that understanding as they become adults, how to really look for those red flags, understand how they can get help if they are in an abusive relationship. So that was my little overview of my project. I will pass it now to our next scholar, who is Shreya, and she's going to talk about her project, How Can Services for South Asian Women in Wake County who have experienced intimate partner gun violence be improved?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Shreya.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. So I want to talk a little bit about why I decided to focus on the South Asian community specifically when it comes to intimate partner violence. Me, myself, I'm South Asian, but I was also inspired by a recent story about a TikToker named Sania Khan, who was a Pakistani woman, and through her TikTok account, she shared a lot about the stigma surrounding divorce and leaving an unhealthy relationship in the South Asian community. And when she pursued divorce, she was exiled by some of her family members for her actions. And she expressed through her TikTok account how her family disapproves of her decision to get a divorce, as well as her initiative to speak out against the stigma surrounding divorce in the South Asian community. Unfortunately, she was killed by her ex-husband, and I think her story really shocked the South Asian community and ignited this conversation surrounding the stigma of divorce and the prevalence of intimate partner violence in the South Asian community. So in the South Asian community specifically, through my research, I discovered various pieces of literature and research articles that talked about the cultural barriers that exist in the South Asian community that can prevent people from leaving unhealthy relationships. Some of this can include abuse from other family members, stigma or shame, isolation, fear of divorce, language barriers, and dowry-related abuse. And dowry-related abuse occurs when in-laws mistreat their son's brides to obtain more money or valuables from the bride's family, or indicate disapproval of the dowry provided by the bride's family. And in addition to that, South Asian culture is considered patriarchal, adhering to traditional gender roles in which men are seen as the primary decision makers and may have much greater power than women. So those were some of the reasons why I decided to focus on the South Asian community, because of the various cultural barriers that exist in this culture. And I specifically tied my research to Wake County because the South Asian community in Wake County is prevalent, and Kieran is the only organization in Wake County that provides services and assistance for South Asian women. And Kieran's mission is to break the cycle of abuse by providing culturally focused services and extensive economic, social, and community resources to serve South Asians who are victims of domestic violence in North Carolina. And Kieran has significant outreach, but with the large South Asian population that exists in North Carolina, I think with more resources, their outreach can be expanded to reach more people who may not even be aware of their organization. So to conduct my research, I did a systematic keyword search to do a literature review, and I also conducted interviews with Kieran in Wake County and also DAIA, which is another South Asian Pacific specific domestic violence organization in Houston, Texas. And from them, I discovered how many people in the South Asian community are not aware of the resources that are available to them, such as these domestic violence organizations or certain benefits that they can gain as immigrants living in the United States who might be experiencing an abusive relationship. And in addition to that, I also learned how religious organizations can play a huge role in educating their community about domestic violence in the South Asian community, and how bystanders can be active in helping those who might be experiencing an abusive relationship. And I learned all of this from a resource called the Faith Institute. And so based on those findings, my recommendations were to have brochures that detail like Kieran's like resources and what they do to be placed in South Asian threading or beauty salons, because those are prominent in Wake County and a lot of South Asian women visit those specifically. And also to host like domestic violence focused seminars or like presentations at religious organizations to communicate to the South Asian community about what they can do to be active bystanders and to help those around them, but also to make those who may be experiencing an abusive relationship comfortable enough to seek help from those giving these presentations or from religious leaders. So I think having that awareness can go a long way in preventing or mitigating domestic violence in the South Asian community and to make people feel safer. And yeah, that's the general summary of my research.
Thank you so much, Shreya. I'd like to turn it next to Angela Lee to help us define healthy relationships and to talk about their work with the National Domestic Violence Hotline and Love is Respect.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to those who have already spoke. This is really a great opportunity. One, because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and because everyone on the screen is doing great work. So as I shared with you, my name is Angela, and I am the Love is Respect Director. I've been with the hotline for 13 years. Love is Respect is a project of the National Domestic Violence Hotline. For those of you who know, but those who don't know, the hotline was established in 1996 and in 2007 as a response to a national discourse about prevention. Love is Respect was born. So everything that everyone has said, I was sitting over here like, yes, 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 barriers to communities on the margin and all of that. Basically, Love is Respect believes that dating means different things to different people. We try to use the gender neutral term partners to make sure everyone feels included. Our services also, we provide advocates 24/7, right? 365 days a year. But I think the main thing to really highlight here is our targeted audience is age 13 to 26. Our secondary audience is older adults, whether that's educators, parents, etc. But I think it's important, we think it's important for everyone to understand that dating means different things to different people, right? Especially across generations. So at Love is Respect, what we do is we define dating as two or more people in an intimate relationship. So what does that mean? The relationship may be sexual, though it doesn't have to be, right? It could be defined as serious or casual, gay or straight, monogamous, open, short-term or long-term. But one thing that's consistent is relationships exist on a spectrum, healthy to abusive, with unhealthy somewhere in the middle. That's what Love is Respect likes to address. We talk about and we educate on the warning signs to a healthy relationship. We also talk about the key elements to a healthy relationship. What does that look like? Like respect, like equality, communication, healthy communication. But when I say communication, it needs to be free flowing, right? Trust, boundaries, like we share with young people, that boundaries are yours to build. You know what, one person may feel like you've crossed a boundary, another person may not. But the key is having that open communication and feeling safe to have that communication and not feel like that you're going to be addressed in an aggressive way, right? We talk about consent. Gen Z really is interested in talking about sex and sexual boundaries, emotional boundaries, as well as physical boundaries. But sometimes older adults are not willing to have that conversation, right? Like I said, we prefer the gender neutral term, but also I think it's really important to stress that no matter how you define a relationship, right, it's important to make sure that each person or whoever is involved, even if there's more than two people, are on the same page. It's so important and defines their relationship together and their boundaries together. I am a survivor myself. At 16 years old, I did not have these resources, right? So I know firsthand, and I think someone touched on that with the Asian community. Thank you so much. The barriers and challenges that populations on the margin can face, right? Whether that's the LGBTQ plus community, African Americans, Asian community, Native community, everyone experiences that. I think that while the impact of domestic violence and sexual assault crosses all social, economic, and racial lines, there are some barriers and concerns that are very unique, right? Specifically to communities on the color. Each community of color has challenges and circumstances that are unique to their community. But there are some common factors, and looking at those common factors is what helps us to help survivors face those challenges that they have. When you think about stats, 1.5 million high school students have reported experiencing physical abuse in high school, right? So it's important to make sure that we're including diverse voices, and that's one of the goals of Love is Respect. It's important to make sure that we're allowing young people to talk to us about their experiences, right? And what they're needing. We can sit here all day and we're all doing great work, but we also need to include our young people to tell us what they need. So Love is Respect it's like we empower young people with education, resources for them to make the healthy decisions for themselves. We also, in collaboration with Allstate Foundation, created a parent guide. Even though it says parent guide, it's a guide for older adults. It's a guide that has specific scenarios, how to respond, how to talk about different abuse types. Like it's more than just physical. There's verbal, sexual, digital. And again, our young people grew up in the digital world, especially Gen Z. Financial abuse. So it's important to have all these conversations. We're not at no point saying that we can talk about everything that needs to be addressed in this time span, but that's just a little bit about what Love is Respect can do. And again, our advocates are there 24/7, just to chat, text, or phone. You can go to loveisrespect.org or text Love Is at 22522, and an advocate is there, totally confidential. So I think it's important for young people to have and know that they do matter. And although they're in a relationship that may present some challenges, you don't deserve it.
Thank you so much, Angela, for that insight. I'd like to turn it over quickly to Allison Barbee to discuss her work with Interact and with Interact's work with intimate partner sexual violence. You are on mute.
Thanks. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you to the other panelists. I've heard so much great stuff so far, and a lot of things I needed to hear and resources that I can take with me today. So my work at Interact is more specific to intimate partner sexual violence. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today and sort of give an overview so that folks who may not understand kind of what intimate partner sexual violence is and some of the telltale signs and the way that it presents in different relationships. So IPSV occurs when an individual uses force, threats, manipulation, or coercion to control their partner and force them into unwanted sexual contact or activity. It refers to a range of behaviors, including unconsensual condom removal or other birth control sabotage, forced unsafe sex practices, controlling a partner's decision regarding pregnancy. It happens regardless of age, race, ethnicity, gender, religion, geography, ability, appearance, sexual orientation, or gender identity. So IPSV includes not only marital rape, but all forms of sexual assault that take place in a current or former intimate partner relationship, whether the partners are married or not. Sometimes referred to as sexual assault within the context of domestic violence, intimate partner sexual violence. It's a complicated form of abuse that has typically been overlooked often by the general public, law enforcement, and even human service providers. It's estimated that a quarter up to half of women in the U.S. Experiencing physical violence from an intimate partner also experience sexual violence by that same partner. More than 1 in 3 women and more than 1 in 4 men in the U.S. have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. And one of the statistics that just blows me away every time is that marital rape was not considered a crime until 1993 in all 50 states. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about some of the ways that some of the levels and different ways that trauma presents in folks that are being victimized by intimate partner sexual violence. The trauma that they experience can be longer lasting. Research reveals that, for lack of recognition and their inability to share the pain that a victim is going through, it can increase the length of the trauma. There are higher levels of a physical injury. So if we accept that rapes are not physically violent, those that do involve injury are likely to be partner rapes. Incidents of multiple rape, although it can be a one-off, survivors of IPSV suffer the highest frequency of multiple rape. Higher levels of anal and oral rape, partner perpetrators commonly use these forms of assault to humiliate, punish, and take full ownership of their partners. They receive advice from different folks in the community or family members to quote unquote put up with the rape. Marital rape victims are a group that are prone to being advised by church, family, and friends that they should be grateful that their rapist is a good father or is providing a home for them. There's financial dependency. Women with children who are permitted no money or employment, or oftentimes, to be able to have family and friends outside of the home. There are definite increased safety issues. The folks need a place of refuge, court dates, assistance with legal and custody matters, which makes advocacy support often harder for them to find. Difficulty defining the act as sexual assault. We're socialized to see rape as involving non-consensual sex between two strangers. There may be a reluctance to define a partner as a rapist. General climate of sexual assault and abuse. So living with intimate partner sexual violence may host a lot of other behaviors other than rape that would not be acceptable if committed by strangers, such as their breasts being hurt, forced to touch the perpetrator sexually, and degrading name calling. And potential fatality. Research establishes that those who are being raped as well as battered are in greater danger of being killed than those who are battered but not raped, given the dynamics of ultimate power over and ownership. This would seem to be a logical step for batterers, and screening women for life-threatening issues is an important part of shelter intakes, and viewing intimate partner sexual violence could potentially help save lives. So back to sort of the pregnancy and inflicted pregnancy, or STIs, deliberately infecting folks. They will often impregnate their partners to force them to remain in or return to the relationship. And they may also force their partners into unprotected sex to infect them with STIs. All domestic violence, be it physical, emotional, or sexual, is usually aimed at control and subjugation. But sexual attacks on women's psyche, it hits in a different way. The psychological effects, women who have been battered may suffer greater damage to their self-esteem and body issues, and this effect has been measured as separable from battery. And rape can result in a more intimate wound than battery. I really feel like that Interact and the sexual assault services team have a really unique way of being able to serve our community. We have one of two community-based forensic examination centers in North Carolina. Patients can present directly to us via our crisis lines or through the hospitals, and be seen by very qualified, dedicated, sane nurses, and a robust group of sexual assault response advocates. Every person that comes through the Solace Center and has a sexual assault evidence collection kit is given follow-up services within 24 hours and subsequent case management services. And we try to help in every way that we possibly can to ensure that that survivor gets the assistance that they need, whether that's, DVPO support, shelter, housing, child welfare and custody, and things along those lines. So we take the work that we do very seriously, and I'm really proud of the work that our team does. So, okay, I'll give the floor to Shahon Marshall and her organization, Beautiful Broken Vessels, and what they're doing to promote healthy relationships with their programming.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Shahon. I am the founder of Beautiful Broken Vessels, a nonprofit organization targeting young adolescents and young females ages 12 to 27 to help them break the cycle of toxic and abusive relationships while providing preventative programming. And so I want to talk about a little bit about what's happening on the ground to impact the view of healthy relationships and what we're doing with our work. And so some of the things that, like I mentioned before, I'm a social worker. So some of the things that I've noticed in my own work as a social worker and just, being part of the community of life, we see that social media, music, movies, are all impacting our view of relationships. And as some of the facilitators have mentioned before, a lot of people don't know what is a healthy relationship. And so we're seeing on social media, I remember the hashtag relationship goals starting in 2009, which was supposed to be an aspirational comment on social media posts, talking about the qualities of romantic couples on social media, but nobody really discussed what those qualities were. And so a lot of times we just see the things that, social media just shows what we want people to see, but not the behind the scenes. So people are seeing, oh, they're lovey-dovey, they're this, but you don't know that behind the scenes that they're forcing these people to take this picture after they just, either demean them or beat them or whatever the case may be. And even in music, so a lot of our music, and even when we were growing up, when I was younger, it was in the music then, but it's a lot more prevalent and not as covert as it was then, and just talking about unhealthy and toxic relationships, and basically, wanting to be the woman on the side, or just willing to engage, be the woman that's still being beaten just because I have a relationship with this guy that everybody wants to have a relationship with. And then we have movies that are making it really prevalent, and it's kind of being glorified. These toxic and abusive relationships are being glorified. And so instead of talking about what these relationships are and making note of it and talking about the damage that it does, it's instead our community is glorifying it. And it's like this thing like, oh, this is great to have, but is it really? And so just understanding what it is and how it impacts us, not even just our mental and our physical, but just all around us, is really, really important. And as well as previous generations are impacting our view of relationships. And so if you were raised in a home with healthy or unhealthy relationships, that can impact your view. Like somebody had mentioned before, some people are raised in toxic homes. And so if you're raised in a toxic home, that's normal to you. And so you're going to breed toxicity. If you're raised in a healthy home, you can still breed healthy relationships, but then because of our community around us, we can still breed toxicity because of what we see. And so we have to be mindful that not just our nuclear homes are important, but what's being inbred around about us is important as well. And so, and as like I said, my work with a social worker, I've done therapy, and this phrase, what happens in a house stays in a house, is a very toxic phrase. And so a lot of kids that I was doing therapy with, they were not wanting to talk to me about what was going on in their life because their mom, their grandmother, somebody always said, what happens in a house stays in a house. And so whether that was they were being beaten or they were being sexually abused, or even if it was just something minor, they were constantly taught what happens here stays here. And they're not taught the difference between what I say about this topic stays here, but talk about the abuse or talk about this. And so we have to be mindful about what we're teaching our kids in the home as well, because they're going to just hold on to this and it's going to affect them. And they're not going to be willing to share and be willing to disclose and be willing to get the help that they need and that the family needs. And so that, that will benefit the family. And so some of the things that, and this is not an end-all be-all list that I mentioned, this is just some of the things that I just want to talk about or pinpoint today. And so some of the things that we can do to tackle unhealthy relationships, what BBV does, we bring about awareness of toxic and abusive relationships. We work towards preventing toxic cycles while cultivating a platform of self-love and healing. Beautiful Broken Vessels provides therapeutic, self-empowerment, and self-improvement services, ultimately emboldening women to grasp their true value, worth, and life's purpose in the way that God intended. We're intended to be whole, healthy humans. And so we can't do that unless we really, truly know who we are and our full identity. And so what we do is we offer 3-module curriculum course that focuses on building healthy relationship with self, understanding who you are, your likes, your dislikes, what makes you you. The second module is understanding who is your inner circle, defining what your inner circle is, one of the things that we see in the community, and I know even growing up for myself, a lot of times we see, oh, they're my friends at school. I talk to them, though I could tell them things that are going on. But just because they're your friend at school, just because they're your cousin does not necessarily mean that they are your inner circle. And so who is your inner circle? And so we define those things. How do you have healthy boundaries, even with your inner circle? And then the last one is about intimate partners. So defining what a healthy relationship is versus an unhealthy relationship. What are red flags to look for? What are healthy boundaries to have in an intimate partner relationship? And so it's really, really important to tackle all these obstacles. And the reason why I did it that way is because you can't have a healthy relationship with others if you don't know how to have a healthy relationship and view and you love yourself. And you cannot have a healthy relationship with intimate partners if you do not know how to have a healthy relationship with others in your inner circle. And so our programming lasts for 6 weeks and it's 2 hours a week. We also offer workshops for anyone that may want to test out the program, or we work with different community organizations as well to offer the workshops to them. And so our goal is to promote healthy relationships with self, inner circle, and intimate partners. And so we focus on strengthening their toolbox to increase self-determination and lead rewarding and productive lives. And so we want to break the stigma of what the adolescents and young adults know and what they've learned through processing everyday life and what they see or hear from their community, friends, family, social media, etc. And so we tackle the things that are being seen on social media and in movies and in music, for example, or things that they're seeing in school to say, okay, this is what I see, but is this normal? Just because it's in my community doesn't make it normal. And so being able to break those things down and say, yes, this may be normal in the community, but this is not normal. This is not right. And so being able to challenge that mindset to be able to understand what is impacting this cycle of toxic and abusive relationships. And so that is really, really important for us. We know that it takes a village to be able to break the cycle of toxic and abusive relationships. It's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes the things that we've learned in our community, it takes years for us to be groomed to learn this way. And so it's definitely going to take time to unlearn the things that we've learned that the community is saying that this is normal, this is right. And so we know that it takes a village. And so we love being able to work with different organizations and schools to be able to bring this in to the community. And like I said before, this is such a hot topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. And that's that could be damaging to our youth. Especially, we say, even as I was growing up, we say the youth are tomorrow. So what are we willing to teach our youth? Are we willing to teach them that this is okay? Or are we willing to say, just because this has been okay for the last 20 years, we're wanting to make a change? And so we need to be able to talk about these things and be able to challenge our thought processes on these topics so that we can see the change and be the change that we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahon. Just a quick reminder on housekeeping. If any of our viewers have questions that you'd like answered, please pose them in our Facebook live chat. And if there's time, we will address them or answer them in the comments or on our website later. So entering the Q&A phase of this, I'll pose questions to a specific panelist, but other panelists, please feel free to jump in if you have any additional thoughts. So Samia, I'm going to start with you. What solutions related to healthy relationships did you develop in your research?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Danny. I think a lot of the panelists really touched on this, but there is such a need for providing education to young people to learn about healthy relationships. And I think really it's a matter of a cultural mindset shift. When you think about it, a lot of times when we think about the topic of healthy relationships, we think that needs to be confined to the home. This is something you're supposed to learn from your parents and the people around you. And I think it's great for people that have parents and role models and adults around them where they can learn from these things. But the reality is not every child has access to that. So I really think it should be on the public school systems and the resources in their own communities to be providing that for children. I think children who have that, it's a privilege to learn and understand what the status quo is, to see what a healthy relationship is before their eyes. And that's something they carry with them into adulthood. But I think every child deserves the right to understand what a healthy relationship is and build up that understanding throughout their education. I think really in the last few years in the United States, there has been a very positive shift in including things like sexual health education, mental health education, but there's need for healthy relationship education as well to bridge that gap. I think, relationships impact so many parts of your life, your mental health, your physical health, and so much more around you and in yourself. So I think that there really needs to be a push for a lot of educational systems to start including those types of conversations, those types of educators, those types of people that are able to talk about these in their curriculums.
Great. Thank you so much. Shahon, I'm going to pass it to you next. I think you can kind of develop that a little bit as well with your answer. But how can the kids, parents, mentors of your students implement what they have learned in the program and encourage or challenge kids to have a healthy view of relationships?
Yeah, awesome. So to implement it, so like I was mentioning before, it takes a while to be able to change the mindset of what you've learned before. And so the tools that we give the kids, worksheets, all these things, it needs to be practiced. And so, we always hear the term practice makes perfect. And so practicing these new things, practicing these new ideas is going to be really, really important. And like I mentioned before, it takes a village. So don't allow your kids to just come into the program and do it and then not try to do it with them and learning these new tools. So utilizing the tools that you're given, that's one thing that we always say in therapy. You're going to be given tools to put in your toolbox. And so when a time comes, you need to be able to take it out and utilize it. And so that's really important for them to encourage them to practice what they've learned. Otherwise they will forget it. And even having those conversations and challenge them to, okay, what did you learn today? How can we do better in this area, et cetera, et cetera. And then teaching them right versus wrong and challenging them to state why they want this particular relationship. So ask them questions. So you're saying that you want this and you want to look like this, but why? Why is this important to you? Why does this seem like it's a good relationship or good idea? And so helping them understand what goes into building a healthy relationship is very important. So if they don't know what to do, they won't be able to do it. And so being able to teach them, these are the signs of a healthy relationship, or these are the things that you've learned. And so knowing that it takes work to build a friendship and an intimate partner relationship, a lot of times people bail at the first sign of hardship. And so teaching them that there is going to be hardship, there's going to be this, but there's a difference between healthy hardship and unhealthy hardship. And so being able to challenge those thoughts and ideas, and teaching them to just be themselves and establishing those healthy boundaries and not be willing to just fall. One thing that I heard all the time growing up is if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So what do you stand for? What boundaries do you have? What things are you unwilling to accept in your life? And so being able to have people and mentors, and even if it's not you that you feel like can teach your child this, putting them with people who can mentor them and to help them learn these things is very, very important and very vital. Like I mentioned, it takes a village. And so you can't do it alone and nobody's expecting you to do it alone. So utilize the resources that you have around you.
Thank you so much. Angela, expanding on that, what are some of the challenges that youth face today when it comes to reaching out for support?
Yeah, can y'all hear me? Because I am definitely having some technical difficulty over here. Everybody's good? Okay, so I think some of my fellow panelists have already identified some of the challenges, but I think it's important to understand that sometimes faith-based reasons can be one of the reasons. I'm sitting here in the echo, so I'm gonna log out of this. Can be one of the reasons why someone is having challenges, or young people are hesitant to reach out. It could be because they feel like that someone's just going to try to tell them what to do instead of listening, right, and really hearing it out. Young people have a voice, and their voice matters too. I think it could be peer pressure. You know, young people experience so much in the school system: bullying, trying to fit in. Someone touched on low self-esteem. There's so many different dynamics. And I think one of the things, just to piggyback off what someone said, also to add to that, is young people crave their parents' support. So modeling, having role models, someone talked about that, having role models that show them what a healthy relationship is, what healthy conflict is. Somebody touched on that as well. That's all a part of healthy communication. But I think it's important to be able to educate and provide the resources, right? Constantly. Don't just pop in and have a conversation or a training and then that's it. I think it's important for consistency. But I think they face a lot of challenges. I mean, there are so many isms going around. That's a whole nother webinar, right? And how do we find our space, right? How do we find our place as young people to be able to say, that's not okay. That doesn't feel right. So what do? They'll shut down and they won't reach out for support. COVID alone caused a lot of challenges with certain communities, right? Homophobia. I mean, again, that's a whole nother webinar. I can go on and on and on, but it's so important for us to recognize. And how can we recognize? We have to ask them, what are some of your challenges? There's someone in your organization. Make sure your organization has representation too, right? Make sure that the organization is consistently committed to DEI training. You know, all of these things play a part, because if a young person reaches out for support and then gets re-traumatized, we call that, I got this from a fellow organization that I work with, Eugenia, that's sanctuary harm, sanctuary trauma. Then they're re-traumatized. So what can we do to make sure that we're creating a safe space, whether that's educators, whether that's our organization, or specifically and more importantly, parents, where young people can feel safe to talk, right? Feel safe and supported that someone's going to be there to listen and empower them.
Thank you so much. Shreya, I'm going to pass it to you to continue that conversation as well, specifically focusing on how culture can affect South Asian youth from forming healthy relationships.
Yeah, like a lot of the panelists mentioned, I think education is really important when it comes to teaching youth about forming healthy relationships to break that cycle of abuse. But specifically in the South Asian community, I feel there's like a lot of restrictions or stigma surrounding dating in South Asian families. A lot of parents are very restrictive when it comes to that and who their children date. So many South Asian youth may not feel comfortable going to their parents to talk about any relationship issues that they may be experiencing. And I think that's a big problem in the South Asian community, but a lot of immigrant families in general have those strict rules and restrictions when it comes to forming relationships at a young age. And I think that can affect in the future if those youth may be experiencing an abusive relationship, they might not know who to turn to, or they might feel like they have to hide the abuse that they may be experiencing. So having educational events, especially in schools, like Samia mentioned, is really important for teaching young people about what healthy relationships look like, what unhealthy relationships look like. And I think also getting parents involved in that education can go a long way to make them comfortable with their children, to make the children comfortable to go to their parents about anything that they may be experiencing in their relationship without fear of getting in trouble or having more restrictions imposed upon them. So I think that's kind of the way that culture can affect youth from experiencing healthy relationships or leaving unhealthy relationships.
Thank you, Shreya. Allison, I'm going to pass it to you to talk about how someone who's experienced IPSV can connect with services and interact.
Hey, thanks, Danny. Yeah, so at the Solace Center, we see folks that are age 16 and up. And if they have been assaulted within a 5-day or 120-hour window, they can be seen for a forensic exam in the Solace Center. If it's a little outside that window, a counselor can always call the nurse and try to see if they'll extend that a little bit. But we typically say 5 days, 120 hours, ages 16 and up. If victims are younger than that, we typically will refer folks to Wake Med on Newbern. They have a wonderful pediatric emergency department there. But anyone can call our crisis line anytime, 24/7, 365. That number is 919-828-7740. A counselor can schedule an exam in Solace. If someone's not eligible for an exam, they can do a case management referral or a support group referral. Talk to them about any of the other services that Interact may be able to help them with, whether that's shelter searches. We have an emergency lethality assessment program space for folks that are in imminent danger from any kind of violence, including intimate partner sexual violence. And they can just also listen and let the survivor know that they're believed. I think that's the most important message that anyone calling a crisis line can hear, is that you're supported and you're believed. So yeah, they call our crisis line and we will do everything we can to support them and get them engaged with whatever services they're eligible for.
Thank you so much. So it does look like we have a question from our Facebook Live chat. I will kind of pose this to everyone. Feel free to jump in. How do we share this valuable information with the youth in our community? Maybe Angela, that one might be good for you, or Shahon.
Sure.
Go
Shahon,
ahead, Angela.
you go ahead and answer it. I would love to. Yeah.
So I think one of the ways to get this information into the community to our youth is getting them connected with different organizations, having organizations come into the schools, churches. So when our organizations are reaching out and they're sharing that they have something that they want to share with the students, don't be afraid to like, oh, this topic is too heavy. The kids need it. And so being open to have the organizations come in and share, and with their expertise, their background, their knowledge base, and being able to share this. And even so, and then I know like with us, you can refer them. So if you wanted to refer clients or people that you know into different organizations, that's another way. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Angela.
Yeah. Ditto everything you just said. And I'm sure everything that everyone on the screen is thinking. Also, I think one of the things, especially for Love is Respect, and I'm sure other organizations, reach out, invite us to provide the training. You know, COVID extended a unique opportunity through the pain of what we were experiencing to allow for virtual trainings. So advocating for different organizations to come into your schools, you know, get involved with your schools and advocate for that. Maybe Interact or some other organization, all these organizations present along with Love is Respect can be involved in helping you provide an awareness event. We have a National Youth Council and we cover over 20 states. One of your states, cities and states may be one that we cover. Reaching out to Love is Respect and seeing it, like in February, which is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, if we can actually incorporate some type of event in the school, right? Helping train. We also have a Start Talking curriculum, which is designed for middle school and high school students, as well as college, right? Or even youth organizations, being a part of that. I think we're all doing great work. How can we all come together and provide for your community what's needed, you know? Because if you really listen to the panelists, we all share the same concerns and we all share the same beliefs. So I think just asking for what you need and seeing who in your community or on a national level or reaching out to your state coalition, how we can come together and provide trainings and education. And just how about some fireside conversations? Like young people just want to have a conversation, right? Or whatever that may look like.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So it is 1 o'clock. I'd like to wrap up the event. We will have everyone's call to action statements available on our website. And I just want to give a huge thanks to our panelists and our viewers for joining us today. If you are not able to view the full event, it will be available on our Facebook page and our website, as well as our YouTube channel. You can visit our website later today to view the full event, as well as the resources and our call to action notes. Thank you so much to everyone and have a great rest of your day.